Vietnam War. The Vietnam War lasted from 1954 to 1975. It was fought between North Vietnam and South Vietnam. North Vietnam was supported by the USSR, China, and North Korea, while South Vietnam was supported by the United States with its allies Thailand, Australia, New Zealand, and the Philippines. This conflict between pro-communist and pro-democratic countries was part of the Cold War. Before World War II, Vietnam was part of the French colony of Indochina. During World War II, the Japanese occupied Indochina, and at the end of World War II, the Japanese surrendered. After this, the French attempted to take back control, but the French were opposed by a Vietnamese army called the Viet Minh. The Viet Minh had been founded in 1941 by the Communist Party and was led by Ho Chi Minh. In July 1954, France and the Viet Minh signed the Geneva Peace Accord. The Viet Minh became the government of North Vietnam, while anti-communist Vietnamese, especially Catholics, regrouped in the south under the leadership of Bao Day, a former emperor of Vietnam who had resigned in 1945. The United States backed the anti-communist government in South Vietnam. It began to send military advisors to help train and support the South Vietnamese army. The South was fighting against the Viet Cong, a communist party based in South Vietnam which was allied with North Vietnam. The Viet Cong began a campaign of assassination in 1957. In 1959, North Vietnam dramatically increased its military assistance to the Viet Cong, which then began attacking South Vietnamese military units. The U.S. responded by sending more assistance to South Vietnam and also sent soldiers as military advisors. But Soviet support for North Vietnam also increased, and the communist forces in the South continued to grow stronger. In 1965, the first United States combat troops entered Vietnam. There would be 500,000 of them by 1968. Land battles were fought throughout South Vietnam. Thousands of North Vietnamese army troops were sent to fight in South Vietnam. There were also thousands of communist soldiers from South Vietnam called Viet Cong. Because of this, it was often hard for American and South Vietnamese troops to tell friendly civilians from dangerous ones. The large number of communist fighters throughout the country meant that American bases were often attacked. The North Vietnamese and Viet Cong were supplied by a vast network of hidden trails, known as the Ho Chi Minh Trail. Supplies and soldiers from the North Vietnam were sent through Laos to communist forces in South Vietnam. America subjected the Ho Chi Minh Trail to extremely heavy bombing, and 3 million bombs were dropped in Laos. Severe communist losses during the 1968 Tet Offensive made it possible for the U.S. to withdraw many soldiers, a policy called Vietnamization. South Vietnamese troops were trained and equipped to replace the Americans who left. By 1973, 95% of American troops were gone. A peace treaty was signed in Paris in January 1973 by all the parties, but fighting continued until 1975.